The tree that gave. Thick fog set in as an ice-cold chill crept upon us. Once children played throughout the street. Their merriment and laughter serenaded our neighborhood. Those days are long behind us. Now the days are filled with suspense, regret, and anticipation. An assortment of villanoma find themselves waiting for dusk to see the fog roll in. Day after day they waited, though the fog came as freely as we live. Skeptics thought it was the work of a childhood fiction. The Willow Wisp, she was called. Willow was told she could never bear children. A Romani woman rolled into town named Esmeralda. Settling into a low-income area was ideal for the witch. Magic or not, we are all subject to paying rent. To make money, Esmeralda told fortunes to the desperate. Though she would always remark, "We give to Caesar what is Caesar's, but to God what is God's." Downtrodden individuals would look at her baffled. She would point to a sign that said $50. Some chuckled while begrudgingly paying her, as they thought nothing of the fortune she told. However, she would then stare. Give to God what is God's. Bewildered, customers would stare baffled at what was said. Then Esmeralda cackled and would say, "My God is that of earth. You will take this water to the sprout out back. Then pour the water upon it." Before my father could grab the pot, Esmeralda cast a piece of paper into it. As he walked, he glanced at the paper dawdling above the water, noticing a written phrase. Upon the paper were the words, "The Survivor." He pitched the water upon the sprout and the paper with it. In time, the roots thickened to the surface. This is one of many accounts told to me, though closer to me than others. People from far and wide came to see the spectacle that sprout became. It was known as the miracle willow. It sprang up without being near water in only a decade. Its size was as massive as a tree centuries in the making. When media would cover the phenomenon, they would ask a plethora of questions, one being, just how was it possible? Esmeralda would answer, "It's a giving tree, watered by the aspirations of the community. Through this tree, all dreams and good fortunes can come true." Skeptics couldn't accept that and would pry for more answers. Esmeralda would slowly back into her hovel of a home, closing the door, sighing, "I'm tired, and I need my rest." As if secluded from the world, she would disappear for days, only emerging to be seen at a playground watching children. Though it was not unusual for Esmeralda to watch children, she would pretend to feed birds for some 10 years prior as she watched a girl named Willow. She professed such love for children, as well as love for nature. She would tell parents within the community, "Children are like seeds. Though alas, I could never have children. I suppose I'll plant one." Other mothers would laugh, thinking they just heard a joke. One day, when Willow was seemingly alone, Esmeralda approached her asking, "Do you love to give and not receive? Willow giggled and asked, "But why?" Esmeralda smiled and mumbled, "Because that's what the world needs." Willow smiled at Esmeralda and answered, "I suppose I like to give." Then Esmeralda asked, "Would you like to receive a fortune-telling?" Willow began to instinctively back away. She responded, "I forgot I really shouldn't talk to strangers." Esmeralda asserted, "I've known you since before you were born. I've seen you in the crystal ball, in the mirror, even displaced in water. I've seen your story as clear as I see you now. Would you ever lie to me?" Though Willow's sister was within earshot and whisked her away. Scolding Willow, she bellowed, "Never talk to strangers, especially that hag." In the following months, Willow's sister became ill, so ill that doctors predicted death was imminent. Willow wouldn't be seen at the playground anymore, yet Esmeralda continued to fester there with a look of malice and discontentment. Willow's parents would come to ask Esmeralda what would be the fate of their eldest daughter. Unbeknownst to them both, Esmeralda had met both of the girls, though Willow, having only been 8 years old, never told her parents. She was more concerned with her ill sister. Esmeralda asked, what would parents do to have 2 healthy daughters? Both parents belted anything. Little did they know what anything would be. She asked, "I need you to cry on this red seed, then take your daughter to the playground to play. Leave her alone, and I'll guide over her, while you're praying beside your other daughter's bed." Willow's father wasted no time yelling, "I would never leave my daughter with some stranger, let alone play alone with this ruse." Though the mother was grief-stricken and downtrodden, she sympathized with her husband, convincing him it was for their baby girl. Slowly they cried over the crimson seed as they sowed it into the ground. As promised, they left the girl in the care of what they believed to be a Romanian woman. 3 days elapsed, and she continuously treated Willow with kindness. She would divulge freely all the great things that would happen in Willow's life. Willow's sister began to become healthy on the 4th day. Baffled, the doctors were taken back by the recovery. Both mother and father rejoiced hand in hand and continued to pray. Willow asked Esmeralda, "Why do you spend so much time with me?" Smirking, Esmeralda said, "Your parents paid a steep price. I never had a daughter of my own, and it's my biggest regret. Though I was a taker, this was my price. The price is never told, though the reward is always apparent." As day 6 neared, the eldest daughter regained her strength and warned them of Esmeralda and their encounter. Outraged, the father stormed out of the hospital to retrieve his daughter. Meanwhile, Esmeralda and the girls sat and played. She exclaimed to the child, "You're such a good girl. You never asked for anything, but you always give. The joy you've given me, I wish I could pay back, though I can only give it back if you ask." Before Willow could say another word, her father snatched her up, carrying her back away. 10 years, and the tree sprouted. 5 additional years, and Willow returned to Esmeralda in tears. She exclaimed that she met a man of her dreams, though they could not produce children. Disappointed, Esmeralda stated, "I knew this day would come. I planted this tree specifically for you. From the tears of your parents and the hopes of the community, 15 years had passed. Though you never blew on the seed, it was watered by a special man, one that I chose. You must bleed upon the soil by purging impurities from the soul. Yet again, I take while asking you to give. Take this paper and plant it in the soil. You're such a good girl. Upon the paper was the phrase, mother of. Willow bled under the willow tree for 6 days, not leaving the tree. On the 7th day, her husband whisked her away from the tree. Within days, she was pregnant. Within days, the tree produced cotton-like buds. Dumbfounded, all parties involved pondered and couldn't explain it. With such a miracle, who could ask for more? With knowledge came the burden of truth. It was said the child would be a girl. The father complained and spoke ill of the child's gender. Willow fell into a deep depression, wishing it had been a boy. For the first time ever, she traveled to Esmeralda with the intention to ask to receive. Saddened by the request, the gypsy retorted, "You used to be such a good girl. You told me you loved to give and never asked to receive. Even now, you receive to give. So you are still good. A miracle takes so much from the recipient. Are you sure you want this?" Willow began to cry and wailed, "Yes." Esmeralda sent her beneath the tree to cry for 6 days before giving birth. As she wept, with each day the cramps and contractions increasingly got worse. On the 7th day, she gave birth to a son. Esmeralda whispered to her softly, "My child, I apologize, for this cost is too grave for me to bear. I must leave your side. You will become a taker, and shall receive more than you've given. You will drain the land of everything, but never give back. You will wither and perish, though you'll always soak up the payment pursuant upon paying back my God." Within days, Willow fell ill as the tree withered. Upon Willow's death, the tree became barren and lifeless, though a thick fog rolled in about 3 years later. Creaking wood could be heard as a whisk of wind rolled past. Some profess they saw a shadowy silhouette of a hooded woman. Children claim to see the roots clawing through the ground in the fog. All witnessed water seep from the base of the willow tree until the whole neighborhood was flooded. This fog would stay for 6 days, and the tree would thrive. On the 7th day, the fog would lift, and the tree would die all over again. Though, when the fog lifted, people would notice their child that was out in the fog was gone, leaving only clues and memories of their existence behind. I had here shoes thrown over there, toys broken alongside gutters. Children became the water sought out by Willow. Payment for all the dreams and aspirations. A future for a future was the reconciliation. Media and law enforcement could never accept such an answer. They pointed towards a possible serial abductee, perhaps even killer. Residents took to the streets in outrage and blamed folklore. Fathers banded together to burn the tree to cinders. Fog rolled in yet again. Streets flooded, and the reaping continued. Some say, through the thick fog, there was that very same tree, unscathed, a woman beside it, as children disappeared into the murky plumes of fog. I never believed any of that nonsense, for I was supposedly out in that fog as a child by my father's recollection. Somehow, I was not taken by Willow, sworn to secrecy, to never tell a soul within the community, though I never understood why. For I had never seen the manifestation known as fog. I've never known just what fog is. I only assumed fog was present by the other children running back inside. Now, as an adult, I sit here on death row, with this journalist writing of deeds that I never committed, attributing crimes to me I had never dreamed of. Ask the people for the truth. They know of the tree that gave. I'll tell you, like I told the officers that found me outside that day, I swear I have never known the fog. Tales from the ground.